Okay, welcome to the Timeless Truths podcast. I'm Carolina Sizemore, and I am so excited today because I have a friend of many years joining me just for this special episode. Something that we have a common interest in, but she has all the expertise in. So I would like to introduce you to my friend, Lorena Selu. And Lorena, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, because we met several years ago. We were working together on our local anti-human trafficking task force, and then we just collaborated on a few projects. You were going to college, now you've graduated. So catch us up with what you're doing right now.
Hi. Well, I'm so honored to be on your podcast. You're an incredible person, and I have loved working with you. And I'm so excited to be doing this with you. So, what's been going on in my life? So, I am now a licensed professional therapist. Yay!
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. And so, I've worked in various settings. So, I've worked in juvenile justice. I've worked in inpatient adolescent unit. I've worked in community settings, private practice. And so that's what I've been doing. And I love working with young people. So I've done a lot of work with our youth and young adults. In terms of the trafficking, I currently sit on a board in Houston, Texas. It's with an organization called The Landing. We do some incredible work here to stop trafficking in the city, to help survivors, to help, educate our community. And so that's what I'm doing, and I love it. I love it so much.
Wow, that's so exciting. I love that even though God has moved you out of our area, that you're still pursuing the same passions, and he still has you in the same lane, and he's really expanded your territory. And that's why I'm excited to share you with my audience. So we both have that same heart and passion for youth and young women, and especially for them to have the incredible life that God intended for them to have. And unfortunately, what I come across, like almost on a weekly basis, that breaks my heart, is in our society today, there is a lot of opportunity and propensity for depression. In fact, over the last several months, you mentioned that you worked in a center for youth. We've seen a lot of the youth that we work with end up there, because they just can't handle this depression. And I know that's an area that we've collaborated on before. It's like, how can we make a difference? So what issues are you seeing locally or even in your profession that we're facing in our society today regarding mental health or depression, for example?
A few, I would say. First of all, especially if you have been in tune with everything that has been going on in our media, in our world. Every day there's something new, right? Every day there's
Yes.
something new. And so I've been seeing a lot of emotional exhaustion.
Mm.
There's a lot of emotional exhaustion for adults. If we as adults are tired, imagine our young people, right? And so there's just exhaustion across the board. What I've noticed too is, not coupled with this exhaustion, there has been this like feeling of loneliness, and I would say that's the driving force behind that leads into depression, is that loneliness. That's the driving force.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because everyone's tired. There's the economy, there's life issues, there's world issues, and then on top of that, people are lonely. There's this belief that I hear over and over again, where people feel like they are alone in what they're going through, and no one truly understands them. And then we also are in a culture where it, in a way, celebrates loneliness, right? It's like, yes, it does. And I'll explain.
Okay, I was like, you're gonna have to elaborate on that one, because that's eye opening.
Because there is like cutoff, like people are so quick, especially among young people. People are so quick to cut off someone. Like, oh, they're not serving me, I'm going to cut them off. Like, oh, you don't need anybody. Everyone's you can't trust anybody, right? And so there's this celebration of being alone and being empowered by yourself. And yes, in a sense there is some empowerment that comes with being able to stand on your own and being able to enjoy your own company, but that's not the case for a lot of people. It's celebrated to be like, yeah, well, I don't need anybody, I'm just going to be by myself. But then that means people are suffering with things and struggling with things by themselves too.
Yeah.
And then also with social media, people tend to show the highlights of their lives. No one's showing the struggles they're going through behind the scenes. And so a lot of times people feel like, well, no one can relate to me, so no one can relate. And then everyone's saying that it's cool to be alone, it's cool to just to not need anybody, to not care whether someone talks to you or not. It's cool to just be by yourself. So then everyone's just driven in this silence, this suffering silence is what I called it.
Wow, suffering silence. That would be a whole nother podcast.
Yes.
So, I mean, I totally get the loneliness thing. And I want to dig deeper into that because I want to ask you, like, how do we like help our audience, or even if they have teenagers or kids, friends, family, coworkers, how do we balance that? I don't know, how we celebrate independence. Like you said, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, yes, it's okay to be independent and that is a value, but how do we balance that striving for independence with the need for community? Like, because we need both, right? And I think the whole value that's on independence is that you're not codependent with your community, but you still have them. So
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
I would say a balance is transparency, knowing who to be transparent with, but also not being afraid to be transparent, right? Emotional vulnerability is not a sin. Like, it's not like you can still be a strong, independent person and in tone with that vulnerability, and be able to say like, hey, like I need some help in this area. Like, hey, like, I want some community here. Like, I will love your support in this area. There's strength in that. There's strength in being able to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable doesn't mean that you're weak. And I think that's something that people need to understand, or I would love for people to understand, to be able to balance that independence and also celebrate community.
Yes. Wow. I call this timeless truths because I always share a timeless truth. But I think that could be one, that vulnerability is not weakness.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's the a paradigm shift that we need in the world because we keep up this facade. And I think a lot of it, you mentioned social media with the highlight reels. I think a lot of that is due to social media. It's like we have to keep up appearances, and I see those like the get ready with me, videos or whatever. I was like, I never looked that good, like how she started out before makeup, right?
Yes. Yes.
You're never gonna see, you're not gonna see this first thing in the morning. But it's just like I have to look good before I show you that I am normal. So where is the transparency? Where is the vulnerability?
Yes.
When it comes to social media, when are people actually being authentic? And so I think you're right. That's what causes everybody to say like, I can't share what I'm really feeling. I can't be honest and vulnerable with what I'm really going through. And so then they keep like pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down until one day it comes out, in one way or another. And then it's like, then they need help. Then they need, like an intervention or something. Or then we get the phone call, my kid is in this hospital or they attempted this. And it's like, how do we back up? How do we address this before it gets to that point?
Um, I before I address that comparison, what you were mentioning is another thing that I wanted to mention. Comparison. We see what we see are the highlights of people's lives, and then we tend to compare ourselves to that. And then if we are already dealing with some insecurities and some challenges, it's almost like it's heightened because we're like, oh, I don't measure up to what's being presented to me. But what we don't realize that what we're seeing is the filtered version, is the edited version, it's the perfect lighting version of some people in a snapshot of someone's life, right? And so, how do we back up, right? How do we back up from that and really, see the truth of the matter? I would say it starts with um, healthy balance, right? It starts with a healthy balance with what is real and what is not. And to explain that is, understanding, right, that social media is not the end all be all, and social media is not really truth.
Mhm.
Finding out what is truth in your life, right? What is real in your life will help you to stay grounded. Okay. Staying grounded and having a healthy balance. You can enjoy social media for what it has to provide, but then you can also understand and hold on to the realities of your life, what is true in your life, what is good in your life. And so I would say starting there
Okay.
first. Okay.
And so when we're dealing with people like I said, I know the loneliness. I know the importance of community, but that doesn't always mean that that's what I pursue. When it's late at night and I'm tired, and you go back to that emotional exhaustion, that you were talking about, and it's just like I don't want to see people, I don't want to deal with people, I don't want to talk to anybody. But then I'm at that point where I'm like, but I need to talk to somebody. I need to verbally process everything that's going on in my life and not keep it within. How would you encourage somebody to take that step outside their comfort zone, um, to actually be able to share with, I mean, at least one person,
Yeah.
share with at least one person what's going on in your life before it gets to, a critical place.
Uh, Therapy.
Yes.
you know, I will always push therapy. Therapy, therapy, therapy. And exactly what you were saying, that there are times that maybe they feel like I don't have anyone in my life to talk to. Or maybe there are people that they can talk to, but because everybody is showing maybe this sense of perfection, right? Or they feel like everyone's life is so perfect that nobody would truly understand. That's where you have a therapist who is, a non-biased, in your plays a non-biased role in your life, right? That will be able to listen to you and provide you that space for you to really just pour out and process everything that you've been dealing with, right? I always say emotions are great, but emotions are meant to be expressed, right? We're not meant to hold everything inside. It's supposed to
Right.
come out, right? And that's where also emotional regulation skills come in. And a therapist can help you with that. But you can also start to do this on your own as well. Maybe, therapy is not a reality for you at the moment, financially or for whatever reason, but
Mhm.
emotional regulation skills you can start to practice. And some of those skills can be, self-care hobbies, right? So if there are things that you enjoy, like such as walking, or you like music, right? Using music as a coping skill, self-care hobbies such as, like, walking or sports, or sometimes just driving. Some people like to just drive around or go to the beach and sit there, or, there are different things that you can do to just help you to process. Journaling is also a great one. I know, Carolina, that you love to journal. I know, Carolina is the journal queen, okay? And so journaling is amazing, amazing, amazing way to regulate those emotions. If you don't have someone that you can call immediately, you write it down. And as you're writing it down, you're processing it. It's coming out on paper. You're releasing it. And so those are some skills. I mean, those are just few skills that you can practice. But yeah, emotional regulation for sure.
That's so good. Okay, because this is what I wanted. I wanted like practical things that people could practice like
Yes.
in the moment. And this is why, because I can tell you, Lorena, just over, oh my goodness, like the past week. I mean,
Mhm.
in that short of a time span, how many people I have talked to, women, kids that, one woman was diagnosed with aggressive cancer.
Mm.
Finding out these kids lost their dad in, a wreck. What else? Just, just all of these, like, you just like, um, have an emergency surgery, which causes your financial situation to plummet. They're facing these things on a daily basis, and a lot of like unexpected loss. And this is something that, we talked about because, we've got to experience in each other's lives, going through those unexpected losses. And, I know personally, and I've talked about it on the podcast, there's things that I have to do. It doesn't mean like we're exempt just because, this is your occupation or because we do this. We're not exempt.
Yes.
And one thing that I try to encourage people is, and I laughed because I talk about journaling all the time. And I'm all like, I know, I'm always talking about journaling. So it cracked me up that you said that too. It's like, you heard it from Lorena. It's like,
Yes, I can vouch for it.
I practice what I preach. But one of the things that I want to encourage people with is like, yes, journal your feelings. Find that friend and don't be embarrassed. One of my issues is I always feel like I'm going to bother somebody. Like, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to, what if they're eating dinner or, this is their day off or what if it's too late? My mind always goes through that. And it's like, if they're really that friend, that you've created a relationship with, you're going to be able to call them and they're going to be like, I am so glad you called me, like, let's just talk about this. Or they'll say like, hey, can we meet tomorrow for coffee? That's a better time. But finding that at least one person that you can talk to. And then if you journaled it, this is my favorite thing. Yeah, I'll write it down and I'll be like, oh my goodness, guess what I wrote this week? It's like, let me tell you, what happened. And I wrote it all out. And you can share those feelings with another person. And maybe they can see things that, like the little triggers or, I have a really good friend and we'll ask each other questions, well, what were you doing when that happened? Or what caused that? Or do you realize, like, why did you spiral? If it wasn't the situation, but, sometimes that emotional exhaustion, something will tip you over, when
Yes.
you're already
Yeah.
there. And walking, I was going to go, and I felt myself climbing the other day. And I was
Mhm.
like, I'm going walking in the morning. I'm going walking. Like, I have to get out of I have to go, like, just release all of this. And it started pouring raining. And I was so mad. So, like, I'd already planned on taking that therapeutic walk. So yeah, I got sabotaged that day. But the one thing I wanted to say is because we both know personally from experience, we've been through these seasons
Mhm.
and just to encourage our audience and everybody that's listening, if they can't get in with a therapist like you right away, to just let them know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. This is one thing that, God showed me. We've both been through loss, but I just want to encourage everybody. I think I would have our timeless truth for this conversation to come from the scriptures and in the Psalms in verse 30, verse 5. David encourages us that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning, right? Right. I mean, the season ends, and like sometimes the night is months.
Yes.
It doesn't literally mean 24 hours,
Yeah.
but it's a season. And then eventually you get through it. And my favorite part, and I think this is what makes you so powerful in the work that God has called you to do, is I'm gonna cry. Wait, I get my clean. So, is that we get to come from that empathetic space that we've been through these things and we know how they're feeling, and we get to hold their hand and say like, I know, but weeping endures for a night, joy comes in the morning. I promise you there is another side. There's another side.
Yes. And I exactly what you just said, Carolina. There is another side, and I know this. I've lived this, and granted my experiences, may be different, right? Or probably different from some of you listening to this podcast experiences. You've gone through your version of hard, your your version of pain, that has, that you face in life. But I've been there, I've walked that, and there is a light. There is hope on the other side. That, exactly what Carolina has said, that that darkness may not be 24 hours, right? That may be a couple of months, and it really may seem like I just cannot see where this is going, but knowing that there is another side, right? Knowing that there's another side. Just sharing a little bit of my testimony, that I shared in two of my books. But I never thought I would survive, losing my mother, losing my parents, like some of the tragedies that I've gone through. I never thought I would survive it. In fact, I even told God, The day you take my mom, because my mom was my best friend, we went through so much together, and we were trafficked together and everything, and so, in labor traffic and domestic servitude, um, and, I told God, I said, "That's the only person I know for a fact, like, unconditionally loves me. And the day you take her, just take me too." Had no idea. God gave me this idea for a book called I Cannot Die, this poetry book, and had no idea that when I finished the book, literally the Sunday that I put the last poem in the book, my mom was, hospitalized. My mom ended up passing away. And when I was writing this, I had no idea what I was about to face, And so, the Lord was telling me through it, like, you cannot die, right? People need you. People need what you carry. And I would say the same for everyone that is listening,
Yeah.
right? When you are going through some really hard things, all you want is peace. And sometimes it just feels like you can't see the light. It just feels like it's just never going to end. It's just one thing after another, and it becomes exhausting. It becomes tiring. But weeping endures for a night. Joy does come in the morning. Here's the thing: take courage in this. Like, the Lord is with you in the midst of all of it, right? He is with you in the midst of all of it, and He says that He draws close to the brokenhearted, right? And He
Mhm.
saves those who are crushed in spirit. Imagine how close somebody has to be to you, right? For you to lean on them. Try leaning on someone across the room. You can't, right? So if God says, I'm drawing close to you, right? That means He's right here with you in it. And He's not going to let this take over you. He's not going to let this destroy you, you know. And when He takes you through it, the beautiful thing is He turns everything into a testimony. You may think things are a mess right now. He will turn that around into a masterpiece. That one thing that you feel like, I don't know how this is going to turn around, you will be surprised how your story can change, right?
Yeah.
But allow the opportunity for your story to change. Allow for the sun to rise the next day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Amen. Oh, that's so good. Okay, speaking of, so yes, you definitely took it to heart and you wrote books. Can you see them? Yes.
Yes.
And that are encouraging. I mean, that was therapeutic for you, but they can be therapeutic for other people. And like, could you just share like a little snippet of something to encourage the audience? And I'm going to put a link in the show notes. So if they want to get, because now you have more books. I know you
Yes.
like you have more books than just these two. You just had one come out the past year.
Yes.
Would you mind sharing just a little bit with our audience?
Yes. So, I Cannot Die is a independently published poetry book. And I wrote that as really to be an anthem, like as like a war cry in a way, towards darkness, towards the darkness of depression, right? So when you read the poems, it's like, I'm talking to the darkness of depression, and I'm basically declaring that I will not die. I'm declaring that I will overcome, right? I'm declaring that greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world.
Yes.
This is not going to I'm going to win at the end of the day, right? And so when you read that, I want you to use it as like an anthem, use it as affirmations, like declare that. Say, look, I am not, going to die. Like I'm not leaving here. I'm going to keep going. This is not going to win, right? And that joy is coming. And then with the other book is called To Feel Everything and Nothing. And so for those that have experienced grief, and or tragedy, or trauma, it's also a poetry book. I love poetry. So that one's traditionally published by Yorkshire Publishing out of Oklahoma. And that one tells a little bit about my story. It shares about trafficking, and and just kind of educates you on that. And it's dedicated to my mother. And so some of you may be able to relate to the pain of grief. That one is very raw, right? It does not shy away from how hard things are, right? And that's the thing, right? Acknowledging the pain but not staying there, right?
Yeah.
Acknowledging the pain but also understanding that there is hope, and not dismissing that as well.
Right. 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 So, when I created this, when God gave me the vision for how I see women, obviously you can tell by my surroundings, I'm like a girly girl. But the thing that got me is that our society tries to lie to us, that we've been disillusioned, by fairy tales. And I tell everybody, it's like you said, we win, right? Like I read
Yeah.
the end of the book,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
my handsome prince comes riding in on a white horse. And so I don't know how you feel that we've been lied to, because every single fairy tale out there is like Cinderella lost her dad, like Snow White was being tried to be
Yeah.
killed by her like mother-in-law, like
Yeah.
stepmother, and it's just like they've all overcome challenges. Like,
Yes.
why do you think it's a lie? This is the life of every woman out there.
Yes.
And so I end every episode with, I'm here to help you know that happily ever after isn't a lie. And when you said that about like, I know we win, I know we win in the end. And I love the whole anthem thing. And I think that's my anthem. So this winning and this, like, now that the joy is coming in the morning and all the things that you've learned. And what I love most importantly is that you've taken it as your life calling to go and help other people, get to the other side as well.
Yeah.
What would happily ever after look like to you, to Lorena?
That is living above the circumstances and situations of this world.
Yes.
Because when you think about happily ever after at the end of a story, right? It doesn't happen. It's not like, oh, okay, they went through all of these things and then they died and then they lived happily ever after in heaven. No, right? Happily ever after happens here. Okay. And
Yes.
that's something that I want people to understand. Like, stay to the end, because happily ever after happens here. And that is what happily ever after means for me, is that it happens here, that life can be beautiful,
Yeah.
right? Regardless of whatever circumstance or situations I have encountered, life can be beautiful and life is beautiful. Because think about it with a book, okay? What keeps us reading even when we get to the part of a story where it seems like nothing's going right for the protagonist, it seems like this problem is happening, this misunderstanding is happening, we're frustrated, we're like, no, but we've invested so much time into this, right? We've invested so much into the story, and so we grumble and we're upset, and we're like, we may even regret picking it up, right? But we stick it to the end. And we were like,
Yes.
okay, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna finish it because inside of us, I really believe in every one of us, we believe in a happily ever after. We
Yes.
hope for a happily ever after. There is hope in each and every one of us, and so that's why we wait months for another series to be released so we can see how this will end. That's why we stay up till 2, 3 in the morning to finish a book, right? Because we must see how this ends. Do that with life. Do that with
Yes.
life. Right?
Yes.
It's like right now, maybe it's not going right. Right? Maybe right now you can't see the happily ever after. And maybe your Prince Charming even ran away. I don't know. Right? Right? But, you know, but the thing is, it's going to work out for your
Yes.
good in the end. Your
Yes.
story is going to turn out beautiful, and happily ever after may not look like someone else's happily ever after, but it will be the best happily ever after for you. And
Yes.
so that's my encouragement, and that's what happily ever after means for me. That no matter what, life will be beautiful.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, I could keep going because you're just making my mind turn, but we'll have to do this another time.
Yeah.
Lorena, thank you so much for joining me today. I know my audience is going to fall in love with you
Oh,
and your books, that they're also going to, keep reading until 2 o'clock in the morning because they're going to relate to you. And what I was thinking about is like how Hebrews 11 transcends into Hebrews 12, just like we're cheering on that protagonist because we want them to win.
mhm.
Hebrews 12:1 says that we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses and they're
Yes.
cheering us on in our
Yes.
story.
Yes. Yes. And, like, think about your generations past that have gone on, like, we have a great cloud of witnesses cheering us on. Heaven is cheering you on. God is
Yes,
cheering you on. There
yes,
are people in your life cheering you on,
yes,
and so that is the hope that we have.
yes, yes. So, beautiful dreamer, you heard it from Lorena. We're cheering you on. The great cloud of witnesses in heaven from generation to generation is cheering you on. You got this. And just like she said, you are going to get through this, and we are here for you. And we just want you to believe that your happily ever after isn't
Yes.
a lie.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.